"I'm sorry my son ended up with such an unattractive wife," my mother-in-law suddenly declared, yanking the microphone from my father-in-law while he was delivering his speech at our wedding. "I'll make sure to train her properly from now on. At the very least, she should become a better wife on the inside," she added, her voice smug. A heavy silence settled over the room. I sat there frozen, my mind reeling. I turned toward my husband, expecting shock or outrage, but he was smirking. My hands trembled, my thoughts scattered, and just as the weight of humiliation crashed down on me, a loud noise echoed through the venue. An older gentleman had risen from his seat. "Is that all you had to say?" His voice was firm, commanding the attention of every guest. Then, without hesitation, he strode toward me with confidence. "Oh my God, it's him," my husband muttered, his face drained of color. I barely had time to process what was happening before the man reached out, grasped my arm, and said, "Come with me." Before I could protest, he led me away, my dress trailing behind us through the hotel corridor. The dress I never even wanted in the first place. My mind raced with a flood of memories. My name is Pearl. I'm 35 years old. I was raised by my mother after my parents divorced when I was in elementary school. In my 20s, my mother fell ill, and caring for her became my priority. Between working and looking after her, romance was the last thing on my mind. Then in my 30s, I met Anthony. He was kind, understanding, and despite knowing about my responsibilities, he proposed to me. We met at work. He was a client, and I assisted him at the reception desk. I hesitated at first, unsure if I could balance marriage and my duties to my mother, but Anthony reassured me. "I know how much your mother means to you," he had said. "Let's be a family of 3. His words moved me, and I accepted his proposal. When we announced our engagement, my mother was overjoyed, but Anthony's mother, Sally, had a completely different reaction. "I'll be upfront, I don't approve of women from broken families," she stated bluntly when we first visited his home as a couple. From then on, every meeting with her was laced with sarcasm. "She's past her prime and she has a sick mother to take care of. My poor son," she would sigh dramatically. I endured her insults for the most part, but one day she crossed the line. "I can handle you belittling me, but don't you dare speak ill of my mother. Anthony was the one who wanted to be part of our family," I snapped. Sally's eyes narrowed. "You probably tricked him into it," she spat. "I did no such thing," I retorted. "Well, your mother must have cheated, and that's why your father left," she hissed. I wanted to fight back, but each time she struck even harder. I considered telling Anthony, but I didn't want to add to his burdens. Then she started meddling in the wedding plans. She even tagged along the day we picked out my wedding dress. "I'll choose the perfect dress for you," she declared. "Mom has great taste. She'll pick something nice," Anthony chimed in. "You're okay with that, right?" I forced a polite smile. "I appreciate the gesture, but I want to choose my own dress." "But I made time just for you. I'm so disappointed," she pouted. "Hey, don't upset Mom," Anthony scolded me. She played the victim so well, and he always took her side. But on this, I stood firm. "I'm sorry, but I'll be picking my own dress. It's my wedding, and I want to wear something I love." Reluctantly, she backed off, but I could tell she wouldn't forget this. Then, on the morning of my wedding, she did something unthinkable. "What an awful dress. And that veil. Looks like something from a bargain bin. You'd look better wrapped in a garbage bag with a sale flyer on your head," she sneered when she saw my dress in the dressing room. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "My mother made this veil by hand. We chose the dress together, and I love it," I said. At that, her expression darkened. "A woman like that has no right to be part of our family," she snapped. Then, before I could react, she pulled a can of coffee from her purse and dumped it all over my dress. "Stop. What are you doing?" I cried, watching in horror as the dark liquid seeped into the fabric. I grabbed a towel, frantically dabbing at the stain, but it was ruined. "This is what happens when you don't listen to me," she said smugly. "Luckily, I brought a dress I picked out. You'll wear that instead." She turned and left. She had planned this. She had carried that can of coffee with the intention of ruining my dress. I was shaking with anger. I rushed to Anthony's waiting room, tears in my eyes. "This is unfair. She ruined my dress on purpose." I burst out. Anthony let out an irritated sigh. What do you want me to do about it? She's your mother, I shot back. This isn't the first time. Enough, you're so annoying, he snapped, his voice sharp and angry. For a moment, I was stunned. His face twisted in frustration, but then he took a deep breath and muttered, sorry, I just have a lot on my mind. I exhaled, trying to calm myself. What's wrong? He hesitated, then admitted, my company's CEO is attending the wedding. Apparently, the CEO happened to be at the hotel and upon hearing about the wedding, decided to join after an empty seat became available. This is a huge opportunity. If I impress him, it could mean a promotion, Anthony said. I don't have time to worry about your dress, just do as my mother says. His words stung, but arguing was pointless, so I let it go. The wedding proceeded, and for a while, everything seemed fine. Then the speeches began. Sally took the mic and launched into her tirade, humiliating me in front of our guests. My hands clenched into fists, my anger bubbling over, when suddenly a voice cut through the room. You don't belong here, the older gentleman from before said coldly, his gaze locked on Sally. Who the hell are you? She shrieked. But beside her, Anthony had gone pale. His lips trembled as he whispered, why is the CEO here? That's right, my father confirmed, his voice steady. I am the CEO of Anthony's company, and I'm also your biological father. His words sent a shockwave through me. I had always known that my parents divorced due to constant conflicts. They both worked long hours and their arguments never seemed to end. To avoid exposing me to their disputes, they made the painful choice to part ways. However, even after the divorce, they remained in touch, and my father never abandoned me. He visited frequently, provided child support until I became independent, and even helped when my mother fell ill. But there was one thing I had never really asked him about, his job. And now here he was, standing before me as the very man my fiancé had been desperately trying to impress. I don't understand, you told me you had an important business meeting and couldn't come to my wedding. I did, but the meeting ended much earlier than expected, my father explained. I still wanted to give you a wedding gift, so I came here. That's when I ran into one of my employees at the entrance. The irony was almost laughable. The very boss Anthony had been raving about for weeks, hoping to impress him for a promotion, was my father. When I asked for the names of the bride and groom, I realized it was your wedding. My meeting had been canceled last minute, and there was an empty seat, so I decided to join in. Then why didn't you tell me? Your mother and I thought it'd be a nice surprise. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect it to turn out like this. My father sighed, his eyes darkening. Before I could respond, the door suddenly swung open. Oh, Pearl, you can't just run off like that, my mother-in-law cooed, her voice unnaturally sweet. A shiver ran down my spine. I had never heard her speak like this before. No doubt, she had just learned who my father really was. My father wasn't one to play along. He turned to her, his voice sharp as a blade. Who do you think is responsible for this mess? Oh, that was just a little joke, she stammered, forcing a nervous smile. A joke? My father scoffed. You called humiliating my daughter on her wedding day a joke? That's even more disgraceful. No, wait. I didn't mean it like that, she protested. So you seriously believe my daughter is ugly? His tone dropped dangerously low. Faced with his piercing gaze, my mother-in-law froze. She opened and closed her mouth repeatedly, unable to form a proper response. Then, as if on cue, Anthony burst into the room. He rushed toward my father, dropping to his knees in a desperate attempt to salvage the situation. I sincerely apologize for my mother's behavior, he pleaded. But my father wasn't moved. You're apologizing to the wrong person, he said coldly. Anthony flinched and turned to me. Pearl, I'm sorry. My mom acted on her own. I had nothing to do with it. I narrowed my eyes at him. Really? Then why didn't you stop her when she was insulting me? I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. But my dad tried to stop her. Oh, because from where I was standing, you looked awfully amused. That's just your imagination, he snapped. Look, the real problem here is my mom. Just then his mother shrieked, Anthony, you're throwing your own mother under the bus? Didn't we agree to discipline this rude wife together? His face twisted in panic. Mom, shut up. You said we should put her in her place. that she needed to learn her role in our family. Anthony shot forward, desperately covering her mouth to silence her. But the damage was already done. My father shook his head. "Anthony, would you care to explain what she means by that?" Anthony trembled. He looked like a cornered rat. Finally, he spoke. "My mom said that if Pearl couldn't even obey something as simple as choosing the dress we picked, she'd be a defiant wife." And I agreed. I crossed my arms. And what's wrong with choosing my own wedding dress? A wife should listen to her mother-in-law. If you couldn't even do that, how could I expect you to obey your husband? He blurted out. The room fell into stunned silence. Then he said it, the truth he had been hiding all along. If I can't control my wife, what's the point of marrying an old hag anyway? The words burned like acid. I exhaled slowly. So all that talk about wanting to take care of my mother, wanting to be a family of 3, that was all a lie. Anthony's face twitched. Of course, you have a hefty savings account, don't you? My plan was to use it to build a house for my mom and me. I wanted to make you work like a servant while we enjoyed life, but now, thanks to this mess, everything is ruined. It was as if a mask had been ripped off. He had never loved me. I had been nothing but a pawn in his twisted little game. As the realization sank in, he suddenly clutched his head. "Ah, no. That's not what I meant." I stepped forward. "It's over, Anthony. You don't want a wife. You want a maid. And I refuse to be treated like that." His eyes darted around frantically. "But our wedding. The guests. What will they think?" I remained firm. "I'll return their gifts and explain the situation. Since your mother caused all of this, you too will cover the wedding costs." Are you insane? This is just one little mistake. Why should I pay for everything? I pulled out my phone, pressed play, and let the recordings of his mother's insults fill the room. When did you record that?" His mother gasped. "I'm not stupid," I said simply. "And now I'll be filing for emotional damages." "That's ridiculous. I was just disciplining my daughter-in-law. If you truly believe that, feel free to tell the judge." Her face drained of color. Then my father spoke the final words that sealed their fate. "I'll be reconsidering your position at the company, Anthony." Anthony collapsed onto the floor. "No, please, Pearl, forgive me." I turned my back on him. Rot in hell. And with that, I walked out of the dressing room, free. In the end, Anthony and his mother paid every cent of the wedding costs. He was demoted and sent to a remote branch in Nebraska. His mother was shunned by her family, divorced by her husband, and left with nothing. As for me, I chose to focus on my career. And to my surprise, my parents rekindled their bond, and we now enjoy peaceful family dinners together. I've never been happier. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.